Look, I actually don't really know what to tell you this morning, given the news that came out late last night and this morning, nationally, internationally, and locally here. The opportunity we normally have that I try to use this moment to check in with everybody to let folks know how things are going and what we're up against, and highlight how communities coming together to get us through this, I think is important. But I really wrestled with this one this morning, where kind of three pieces that set me off, and I just struggle to actually understand this. So first is that finally this week we should expect for millions of Americans, tens of millions of Americans, to be receiving some of the assistance from that CARES package. We passed $2.2+ trillion package, which is so critically important. So many people are in dire need of this help and support. And the fact that the President of the United States decided to use a second of his time, a moment of his time, to think that the appropriate way in the midst of a pandemic where thousands of people are dying every single day, right? 113 people died in Massachusetts yesterday. 1,300 new cases diagnosed yesterday in this state alone. The fact that you use a second of your time to ensure that your signature would appear on the check, to make it look as if this is your money, taxpayer money, in the midst of an absolute pandemic and economic catastrophe, which, by the way, your administration did nowhere near enough to actually help address, support, get in front of, support our frontline responders, and that you're somehow trying to take credit for this for a cheap political win? It's astounding to me. And astounding to me that somebody in the midst, that a political leader, a president of the United States, in the midst of this moment would spend your time to do that, rather than to figure out how you could get enough PPE to care for our doctors and our frontline officials, and to care for our emergency responders, and figure out what we can do to try to protect our essential workers. And then claim that governors that are trying to band together to figure out how we can open up this economy have somehow gone into mutiny. It's absurd and outrageous, only perhaps to be superseded by the fact that the appropriate response, our president believes, is to cut funding to the WHO, the World Health Organization. Now, look, multinational organizations might have challenges and bureaucracy and all the rest of it, fine. But you cannot sit here and say that the real problem with the reason why we have had hundreds of thousands of diagnosed cases is here in the United States is because of the WHO. You cannot do that. Why? Because your own intelligence agencies, Mr. President, told you that this could be a pandemic. Your senior officials told you that this could be a problem. Your own simulations through HHS told you this could be a problem. Senators told you this could be a problem. And you did nothing. And your response is to deflect, divert, and try to distract the attention away from yourself and this administration to point it to the WHO, which, by the way, if you actually are focused on trying to ensure that this pandemic does not continue to spread, you want to be surging resources to organizations like the WHO. Or if you don't think that they have the ability to do it, then help create your own. Do what the Obama administration did with Ebola in West Africa. Take the lead. Send U.S. forces over there, 3,000 of them, which is what the Obama administration did. Doctors, even military officials, to try to actually help set up tents and surge response and challenge, as they did at the UN and others, through other mechanisms, other countries to respond and get a handle on it. Because as bad as this has been here, it's going to be devastating throughout the developed world. You might have seen that op-ed, some of you, that Samantha Power, former UN ambassador, did in the New York Times last weekend. I believe she indicated that all of South Sudan, the entire country, has 4 ventilators. 4. You think, Mr. President, that we're going to be able to open up an economy and get back to where we were before with international air travel? If this virus is spreading through Sub-Saharan Africa, Southeast Asia, Latin America, without the public health infrastructure that we have here, without the ability to diagnose and test, and we can somehow open up our economy and do this all over again, you're out of your mind. And yet the appropriate response, from your perspective, is to finger point at the WHO when you have done more than any president in modern American history to actually target the architecture of international cooperation and try to destroy it. From beginning with NATO and the UN all the way down through the WHO. And third, news from local officials in my district that there were 30,000 gowns, medical gowns, headed to a regional hospital. And that those gowns were going to help support that hospital and a couple of fire departments and first responders along the way, and that the federal government seized that shipment. Because apparently our failed response, the federal government's failed response to this, means that when the states and municipalities and hospital systems scramble to try to make sure that their personnel are protected, the federal government says, oh no, you can't do that, we were slow in the game, we'll take it back. And we will decide who gets it based upon our own calculus. These same officials that when Massachusetts requested 1,700 ventilators, they sent us 100. If you're going to say, Mr. President, that states are on their own, that federal stockpile is for the federal government, which I don't even know what that means, but that states have to come up with it on their own, and then when states do, you're going to take it from them? Folks, I spend hours and hours a day on the phone with doctors and with hospitals and with first responders and with firefighters and people that are people that have been sick, people that are sick, people that are risking their lives to save others. And I cannot believe that this is the response of the federal government of the United States of America. And I know we're going to get through this, and I'm sorry that this administration is making it so much harder. But to then have the conversation that I did yesterday with a guy in Fall River, Massachusetts, that told me that he has become the largest manufacturer of medical gowns in the country, that has helped bring back some of the a mill in Fall River, an old textile manufacturing community, that he's reconfigured their entire manufacturing space, and they're cranking these out because there's such a need. You hear these inspiring stories of folks that just have been relentless at doing whatever it is that they need to do to care for their community and help. And you see a federal government getting in the way every which way they can. So for all those of you that are out there fighting through this, doing everything you've got, from our doctors and our nurses and our EMTs and firefighters and police officers and paramedics and all those essential workers stuck in the grocery stores and delivering packages and postal workers and everybody else, thank you. We will fight through this, and we will support you. We'll do everything we've got. And I'm so sorry that your government's been making it this much harder. Hang in there. We're grateful for you.